Welcome to Behind the Recipe. I'm your host, Christina Hitchcock. Join me every week as we dive into the joys of cooking, explore kitchen tips and tricks, and share delicious recipes that will inspire your next meal. So, whether you're a seasoned cook or just learning your way around the stove, there is something here for everyone. Today, I'm talking with Tina Frank from Spaghetti and Confetti, and I absolutely love that blog title. But we're talking about cooking for a crowd and especially around the holidays. So, welcome to the show, Tina.
Thank you so much, Christina, for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. Before we get started, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
Sure, absolutely. I have a blog, obviously, called Spaghetti and Confetti. I launched it in January of 2025. My Nona inspired me. She's passed away, but I grew up cooking in the kitchen with her, and she inspired me to kind of like document all the recipes that she did not document. So I wanted to do that for mostly for my family, but for everyone. So that's how I got started. I actually, backing up just a little bit, I started in food photography in 2020. And I have a little food photography business. And then I started my blog in January. So they kind of just went right together.
Yeah, that does seem like it goes right together. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love that you were tasked with getting Nona's recipes all down on paper because my recipes from my grandma were like the coffee cup is the measuring cup and you rolled out the ravioli with the broom handle. Like there was,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I didn't get all the ones written down that I wish I would
No.
have, but I do have some. And then I've just gone a lot from memory, believe it or not. Just cooking with her all those years when I
Yeah.
was little, it just is like muscle memory kind of. It's the same
Yeah.
type of thing. And I know exactly what it tasted like, so that helps too.
Yeah, I did the same thing with my mother-in-law before she passed away. We had like a cooking day where she taught me to make some of the things that, you just can't learn the technique from a recipe. You need to feel the dough in your hands and just see the way things come together. And I'm so glad I was able to do that. Like, so capturing, that kind of stuff is like, that's truly a treasured
Yes,
experience.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So let's dig into, let's talk about, cooking for a crowd, especially around the holidays. We're gonna have people coming over to our house. What are some tips and strategies you have for us?
Sure. I come from a big Italian family, so I've been around a lot of parties and festivities where there's lots of food, of course, in the Italian American culture that's very important. So there was lots of food always in my household. But then as I got older, and had a family of my own, my husband and I are a blended family. We have 8 kids. So that's just cooking for a crowd almost every night. So I learned
Seriously.
quickly how to adapt to cooking for a crowd.
Mhm.
And for the holidays, especially, I feel like the biggest thing that I have found is just the planning of it, which
Right.
for me is I'm not really not really a planner.
Oh,
So it was a challenge for me at first, but then I realized the more I planned, the better it was for me the day of the holiday. If I had a lot of preparation where I didn't have to do all the work the day
yeah.
off, so on and so forth. So that's kind of how I got started, just being around a groups with my grandmother. She was always cooking for a crowd, so she always cooked big batches of things, meatballs, sauce, all the things, lasagna.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, like I said, I kind of just carried that on with my big family.
Yeah. So I have to ask, were your
Sure.
holidays as like growing up, did it always involve like the lasagna course came before the turkey?
Oh yeah, I was telling my husband when I was a kid, we always had something Italian at Christmas. We
Yeah.
had the American things, turkey, stuffing,
Yeah.
dressing, all the things, the mashed potatoes, all those fun things that everybody has on traditional Thanksgiving, right? But we always had Italian food,
Oh
always
yeah.
lasagna or something to that effect, some sort of like eggplant or I don't know. It's whatever my grandma felt like fixing, really. But
Yeah.
it was usually a lot of times on Christmas and Thanksgiving, it was lasagna.
So it was like two full dinners
Yeah. Yes.
jammed into the course of one normal meal time. And
Right.
you
Yeah.
better have worn an elastic waistband.
Exactly. Get out your sweatpants.
Yeah. So I don't know if you've ever heard of the comedian Sebastian Maniscalco. Oh,
Absolutely.
so like when I listen to his comedy, I'm like, oh my gosh, you are taking me back to my childhood and the way things were,
Oh
because that
yeah.
is exactly how it was. So if you've never heard him, he is hilarious. He's an Italian American comedian, hysterical.
Yeah, he is so funny. He reminds me of one of my uncles. He used to go upstairs mid-meal and put on sweats and come back down and be like, ready for my next plate, you know?
You actually do need a breather before the lasagna, of
Yeah.
course, and the
Take
turkey.
a little walk, come back.
And then there is zero room for pie at the end.
Exactly.
So, well, it's interesting to hear that you didn't plan and but now that you see the value of planning. I'm like the exact opposite. I'm probably an over planner when it comes to things. But so what are some strategies that you've learned, in your foray into getting organized and
Yeah, one thing I've learned is the more you can do ahead of time, the better, because you always think, oh, I can do that the day of. I can do that the day of. And then the day of, you're like 3,000 things plus, oh, here comes all my family and the kids, and you want to enjoy gifts and all the things.
yeah.
So, I found that the more I could do ahead of time, the easier it was for me. Like I said, because normally all of the things fell on me,
Yeah.
um, which is fine. But because I love to cook and do all the things, but I just noticed that it would help me the most.
Mhm.
So, doing the things ahead that I could, anything that I can make ahead, if it even fully cook it ahead and just be able to rewarm it, that's always awesome. Plus the oven space.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but I don't have this I can't even say the word, humongous kitchen. I have a small kitchen. And so I'm like, I need the space. I need to make sure I have enough space in the oven, which is always a challenge I feel in my house,
Yeah.
a big holiday dinner. So making everything ahead. Also planning. This is something actually I learned along the way, probably within the last few years, coming into the food photography and food blogging business, was planning what actual dishes everything goes in, the things
Mhm.
that I was going to make the day of, like, which casserole dishes am I going to, do I need a new one? Is there something I don't have? That kind of thing. So that is very helpful too in planning, I found.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I'm, like I said, I'm probably the exact opposite of where you were. I am like the over planner. So I'm the one that has, if I could start the week before, I get so excited.
Yeah.
I'm a nerd like that, but I have all my serving dishes laid out with like post-it notes on them as to what
Yes.
what goes into what, or I map it all out on a piece of paper. But yeah, that does make a huge difference because you're not running around, or if you know
Right.
somebody's going to bring something, you can be prepared and have, what they need to serve their dish. Maybe if they bring it in like Tupperware or something like that, you're prepared. You're not in the middle
Right.
of cooking everything. They're going, "What should I put my green beans in?" And you're like, have to stop what you're doing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I've learned that very well. And I learned to also remind your guests if they're bringing something to remind them, because I've
Yes.
had instances where some folks have forgotten,
Yeah. Well,
but it's
good thing we
okay.
have that lasagna course.
Exactly. We always have plenty of food. So there's never any worries if
Yeah.
someone gets something that's usually not even noticed.
Well, it's funny you said about like the oven times because that is, when we're cooking in the holidays, preparing and being organized about what's going in and out of the oven and when is, that's a big thing. Like I often think back, like, how did my grandma do it? I'm lucky I have two wall ovens, but like, how did she do Thanksgiving dinner with just, one oven? It's a lot to think about. It was a smaller oven, like it wasn't even a big oven,
Right.
and like I've always thought about that, and I'm like, she was probably just very organized and planned ahead and thought about
Mhm.
that. So I've gotten to the point now where I sit down like the night before and I map out what goes in the oven at what time, what comes out at what time, and then I tell my device, my Alexa device, if I say her name too loud, she's gonna
I
want to do
know she'll
something.
yell at you.
Yeah. So I tell her to remind me. I'm like
Right.
at 3 o'clock, put in the or not the turkey, the sweet potatoes at four
Right.
o'clock. Take out the sweet potatoes at this time. Put in this at that time. So like it cracked my mother up the first time she saw me do this. She comes in and like the Alexa starts going, Christina, take out the sweet potatoes. Christina, put in. She's like, what did you do? I'm like, the robots are helping me cook.
Right, exactly. Well, I think that is such a good idea, and I think I will steal it from you and use it this
Definitely.
Thanksgiving. Another thing that I have to do is make lists, kind
Yeah.
of the same type of thing. If I don't have the reminder, I'm easily distracted. So if I don't have a list where I can check off, okay, I've done this, then I will forget to do something or even
Yeah.
make something, like, or even get something out. I've forgotten deviled eggs in the fridge before, and the next day being like, oh, the deviled
Yeah.
eggs, kind of thing. Like, So if I don't have the list and it's all, and I don't check it off as I put it all out, then
No, I'd
sometimes
be like, all the deviled eggs just for me. This is awesome.
yes, yes, I wasn't mad about it. Let's be honest.
Yeah. No, but lists are extremely helpful. So I, again, the over planner in me. This is funny. We could do like the two sides of everything.
Yeah.
I I always had like a laminated list. Like I print my lists out and I put them in like those plastic sheet protectors we used in school. And so I could write on them with dry erase markers. And I started out with that and I still use them today. But I also have half of my lists on an app on my phone. So like my grocery list, like for every
Mhm.
Thanksgiving is the same grocery list. So I
Yeah.
just, check everything off. And then when I get out of the store, I uncheck everything and I'm good to go for next year.
Right.
I
That's
don't have to worry
perfect.
about doing it again. And it's all about, working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. I feel the same way. And if
Um,
you have a big family or if you're just cooking for a crowd,
yeah.
making things the simplest as possible so that you can actually enjoy the time also, because no one wants to be, slaving away in the kitchen all day.
Yeah. Or
And
you're frazzled, when you have 14
yeah,
things going on at once and you're trying to remember all this stuff, you're like, your best self is not there to be with your guests.
right, right. Yeah, I agree. And that's the most important thing. I
Yeah.
mean, of course, I love food is my love language, so I love to feed
Yeah.
people, but I know that if I'm frazzled and, not spending time with them, none of that's going to matter. So,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And then you're not forgetting things. Like for me, it would be like the wine, stuff like that. So that was some of like the things that I always tended to forget were the first things that went on my list. And I've also added take a shower, like so that I know in the middle of all the cooking, like, oh, I've got to go get myself ready.
Yes, yes. I've come to the wire when people are coming in and I'm still upstairs getting ready because
The hairs in a towel. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Oh
But
yeah,
yeah,
been there.
but exactly. I don't think any host has not, I
No.
feel.
Yeah, so these are some great strategies, I think, like, figuring out your serving pieces, pre-planning as much as you can and using the tools that we have to our advantage. What other strategies do you have for us?
Well, another thing I was just came to my mind as we were sitting here, is that don't try a new recipe.
Yes. Yeah.
Make sure if you want to try something new that you've tried it before the holiday
Oh,
because it's inevitable. I feel like I'm not bragging, but I feel like I'm a pretty good home cook and I've made a lot of different things. And in my photography business, I've developed almost 1,000 recipes. So I feel very confident about my skills. But even me, every time I do it to myself, I'll think, oh, I'm just going to whip this up real quick. It's going to
yeah.
be, I'll use somebody else's recipe. This will be great. No.
No. This is not the time to figure out, oh, I
Yes.
want to start cooking with sourdough. And
Yes, this
here's
is
my
not the
sourdough
time to
starter.
experiment. So my
Possibly.
advice is stick to tried and true things that you've made over the years. If it's not your specialty, maybe try to get somebody else that's better at it to make it. But don't try the new recipes on the
Yeah.
holidays. Try to keep those for your own, time, and then once you get it perfected, then bring
Yeah.
it to the holiday dinner
Or
just for
pre-plan a
less
little bit.
stress.
Pre-plan a little bit and make it a few times before everybody
Mhm.
comes over, work out the bugs.
Absolutely. Yeah, I encourage that because
Yeah.
sometimes holidays can be boring if you don't spice it up a little bit sometimes.
And it-
But
and it's true. Like we start scrolling Pinterest and Instagram and all these reels, and we're seeing all this great stuff coming up during the holidays that we want to try. And I'll never forget, I was going to a Christmas party a couple of years ago, a friend of mine was having, and I saw these really cute little crescent roll Christmas tree appetizers. And I'm like, oh, I'm totally making that for the party. They're gonna love these. So, I followed the directions, I made it. They did not turn out like the video showed, the reel showed.
imagine that.
I was in a full sweat. I was frazzled. I was aggravated,
Oh,
and they
goodness.
looked horrible. But I still,
Yeah, that's the worst thing when it's like a Pinterest fail that's supposed to be
yeah,
so beautiful. Then you're like,
yeah. I
I'm
think
a
there were a
bad
couple steps
artist.
left. But like you said, I've been around the block. I
Mhm.
know how to cook. I can carry my own in the kitchen. So like I know how to read a recipe and tell when it's wrong. But this one was just not working in any stretch.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is very frustrating.
Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah. How about like when do you have any strategies for like prepping, like shopping, or like when cooking for a crowd or anything like that?
Yeah, again, make sure you're making lists so you don't forget anything. Make sure that what I like to do is actually like to print out my recipes and
Mhm.
mark things off that way and then add them to my grocery list because it just helps me to not miss anything. Um, Also shopping early for non-perishable
Yeah.
items is great because once you get closer to a
Well,
holiday, it can get crazy with things being out of stock and just the way things are stocked anymore. Sometimes on a regular day, you can't get things. So,
and just the
um,
chaos in the grocery store. You're frustrated before you're through
yes,
the produce section.
yes. Also, shopping on an off day if you can't have your groceries delivered, but if you want to go brave the stores, trying to shop on an off day, like a weekday, if you
Yeah.
can, instead of trying to brave all those crowds, it's less stress.
Yeah.
I'm for the no stress. So
I don't blame
anything
you.
you can do to reduce the stress, I'm in for that.
Yeah.
Um, Being prepared ahead of time, basically. Like I said, trying to get all those non-perishables ahead of time, and you don't have to worry about getting too close to the holiday. And then when it gets closer, you obviously have to get things that
Yeah.
you can't have
I'd
early on.
also add in there like cross-checking your list with what you have because I just organized my pantry cabinet last weekend and I found 4 bottles of sherry vinegar because I have one recipe I make for Thanksgiving every year that calls for sherry vinegar. Yet the last 4 years I have bought a brand new bottle of sherry vinegar.
That is a really good tip. I
And it's something I,
sometimes can
yeah,
overbuy because of that.
and I only use a tablespoon of it once a year. So
Right.
if anybody needs sherry vinegar, hit me up. I've got some extras.
Exactly. I wonder if you could freeze
Yeah,
that. I don't
so
know. I don't know. Vinegar. I don't know if you can freeze vinegar or not.
uh,
Probably not.
that's too much work.
Yeah, that is too much work. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Let's
I would
see.
definitely do that.
We were talking about what else we can do in preparation, grocery shopping ahead of time. Just I always like to have my table ready early
Yeah,
too.
me too.
Like even if it's a week ahead of time, like without obviously putting like I mean you can't let dishes get dusty and that kind of thing, but as much of the table that you can get done ahead of time is also
Yeah.
nice because as my kids have grown up, I've actually been able to spend time doing those things like paying attention to the table because
Yeah.
before it was like who cares what the table looks like, we're just eating and half the time the kids aren't even sitting here. So,
Yeah.
you know, but now that everyone's more adults, young adults, we kind of spend a little more time making it fun. One fun idea that I've started doing for my adult children, because, when they're going to be adults, the little bit of the sparkle starts to go away for Christmas.
Yeah.
It's not quite as exciting, even though it's fun all to get together, but we don't have any grandkids yet. So it's just adult children. And, but I put this craft paper runner down the center of my table and I put markers and pencils and color pencils and all the things that you could use to color with and draw with. And the kids love it.
Oh,
And
I
they're
love that.
grown adults.
Yeah.
But they love drawing on it and I roll it, I try to keep them, but sometimes they'll get food on them and I don't keep them. But sometimes if there's no food, I'll roll them up and stick them in my little chest because it's just a cool little thing. Like
Yeah.
just to have because like I said, when you have adult children, it's not that it's not fun. It's just that,
It's different.
yeah, it's different
Yeah.
and it's nice. It's nice and quiet and calm.
Yeah,
But
and you get help too.
yes, you get help. That leads right into the other thought that I had was to enlist help for the
Hmm.
holidays and for big gatherings. If you're cooking, even if you're making meals for a crowd, you can always enlist people to bring things like, easy things. If you don't trust them with cooking, ice, garlic bread,
Yes.
chips.
Yes. Yes.
Even fruits and veggies, that kinds of things that you can't mess up, like
Right.
that you don't really need to have spend the time cutting all that things up. Somebody else can, do that, or they can just go buy a deli tray. But don't be afraid to enlist help from people because I've had that problem wanting to hold on to everything
Mhm.
because I'm like, oh, I want it to be the way I want it to be.
Yeah.
But I've found that it can be very stressful.
It can be. And that is true. And I'm one of those people that has a hard time letting go of that control.
Hmm.
And I had to learn, it was actually a learned, habit of mine to be able to accept help when people offer it.
Yeah,
Instead of saying no, thank you, I'm like, would you mind bringing ice? Would you mind bringing the wine? Because I will
right.
forget it.
Yeah. It's like I said, it just helps you de-stress a little bit and
Yeah.
focus on things that are really important.
Especially too, if you're accommodating someone with special diets,
Mhm.
that might be a great way to elicit help. Like, if we are not a gluten-free home, so if somebody coming was gluten-free, I'd be like, hey, would you like to bring your favorite gluten-free recipe? I mean, that way at least there's one thing that they can eat.
Yes, exactly.
So that's a good way, I think, to kind of takes some of the stress off. I personally am not a fan of baking, so that's usually the one thing I outsource for holiday
Yeah.
dinners.
Yeah, we do a lot of baking around here, so
Yeah.
it's a weekly occurrence.
Well, you were mentioning about setting the table early, and one trick I learned, this was years ago. So we have a cat and he likes to jump on everything.
Mhm.
So I do like to set the table. I often said too, one of my ideal jobs would be my dream job would be table setting. I would love to just set tables for people.
That would be
Have
so fun, right?
all the different things, right? The napkins and napkin rings, like all that fun stuff. But I do like to set my table ahead of time. But what I learned was you put another tablecloth over top of that.
Mm.
And then it doesn't get dirty, doesn't get dusty. The cat stays away from everything,
Oh,
like it's just kind of, a different way to protect it. You just have to be careful when taking it off that you don't
right.
knock things over. But that's
Yeah,
worked for me
that's a
a
good
few times.
tip. I like
Yeah,
that.
that's worked for me a few times.
Yeah, we don't have any kitties inside, but we get our fair share of
Yeah.
other like floaties coming through, dust and
All the things. Oh
yes,
yes,
exactly.
all the things.
Yeah.
So if you have the space and you're not, like if you don't eat at your dining room table and you have that luxury of being able to set it earlier, that is truly a time saver. It's one less thing you have to worry about the day
Right.
of a big dinner.
Yeah. The other thing I like doing is we were talking about putting sticky notes in the dishes, but I
Hmm.
like to also do that like where I'm going to have everything displayed, like kind of put a
Yeah.
sticky note where I want everything to be, whether it's the plates and the forks and the napkins and then on
Hmm.
all the so that when I'm putting everything out, I'm like, okay, this goes here instead of being like, where should I put
Yeah.
everything? How should it flow? And
Yeah.
and with having a lot of people, it's like you have to have a good flow because otherwise everybody's just standing there,
Yeah,
their
for sure.
plates, waiting patiently.
Wait, while you're trying to figure things out on the fly.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But I found that that makes things easier also.
Yeah, I found too, like one of the things I have in my ultimate Thanksgiving planner
Mm,
that I have available on my website. One of the things I put in there is like to prep your home ahead too, because we've talked so much about the kitchen, but like your whole house, if you're having guests over, needs a little TLC, like to clean the
absolutely.
bathroom and to, put all the extra coats away so that there is a place for the guests to put their coats and shoes, and things like that, like things you don't think of all the time. And, maybe where you're going to set up your beverages and just kind of thinking through some of the logistics and making sure your house is ready. That's not something you have to do the day of or even the day before. You can really get a jump start on that.
Yeah, I found that the house cleaning and organizing needs to be like at least a week ahead.
And then
Maybe
everybody
some
is put
final
on
sprucing
strict,
up, but
yeah, then everybody's on strict orders. You are to
yeah,
put
do
your
not
coats here. You're
touch.
not to put your shoes here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, those are some good tips. And I always like to make sure the night before a holiday too, I run my dishwasher. Regardless of how many dishes it has in it, I run it so that I can start that morning with a clean dishwasher.
Yes, that is such a good idea. I love that. It's the worst when you open it up and you're like, oh no,
Like,
I don't have enough forks.
it is, right? Thinking through that stuff.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So check.
it's funny because I've always had to buy like multiple place settings with having eight kiddos in
Oh,
the
I can
house.
imagine.
And we still have the same set, believe it or not. They didn't get broken. A shout out to Corningware. But I have all these same plates and like it's like people are like, wow, you really have a lot of the same plate. I'm like, yeah, this is my life every day. You have to have all these plates, but making sure that you have enough plates and forks and all of those types of items
Yeah.
are important to think of ahead of time. And if you want to use like, different size plates or if you want to use occasion plates, that type of thing to get those ahead.
Right.
I found going around the Goodwills around Christmas time or even way before Christmas looking for like different Christmas plates or
Yeah.
different Thanksgiving type plates that you can put out. Like you could either use them as serving plates or I've even seen people use different plates for each person, even though they're not the same. It's just kind of like a festive little thing to do.
Yeah,
So
that little
that's
mismatch. I
fun.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That shabby chic look.
Yeah, I love finding all the cute little like plates and stuff that are
Hmm.
Christmas that are kind of not really vintage, just different things that, people have discarded along the way that are
Yeah.
just what you would see in a store now. So It's kind of
I'm
cool.
like that with things that go on the table. So, like, I have the individual salt and pepper shakers for everybody that I bust out at the holidays. But then, years ago, when I was in Norway, we were at a relative's home and they had a dinner for us, and she had knife rests, little crystal knife rests where you just daintily rest your knife so you're not
Aw.
getting making a mess on the table. And I'm like, I need knife rests.
You're like, I have to be fancy like this.
I know it's so extra, but I'm just like, I want them. So
Yes.
my mom actually scoured like the internet for them and found them. And it was like one of my Christmas gifts that year. But I love my knife rest. They come out on holidays, and when new people come to the house, they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "It's a knife rest."
Right. I can't believe you haven't seen one
I
before.
seriously, you haven't seen a knife rest?
Where have you been? That's so
But I
fun.
love it. It's like those little things that make me happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got to find the joy in things. We have
Yeah.
to find joy.
My husband's like, "What am I doing with this thing?" You just let it sit there and look pretty.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I like to keep my decorations simple just because A, I'm not good at that kind of stuff. And B, I need more room for food.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I try not to crowd the table up too much with decorations, just kind of put them around down the center. But like I said, the craft paper with the
That's brilliant.
that is so fun. Like I said, that is one of my favorite things
Yeah,
probably
I
on my
think I might
table.
incorporate that this year into ours. Do you have any other fun traditions that you do with your family during the holidays?
Oh gosh, as the kids have gotten older, things have gotten a lot more calmer. We do like to play games. Like board games, and like they have the games that you can log on to on TV and like play the trivia type games together and do those kind of things. So we do that after the food part dies
Right?
down. Mostly we like to eat and sit at the table together. The other thing that I love to do is to if we're having dinner in the evening, I love to light candles on the table and kind of dim the lights, just
Yeah.
especially at Christmas time. At Thanksgiving is nice too, but especially at Christmas, it just makes that like little cozy vibe and
Hmm.
not such, it just makes it a little more special.
Yeah. Yeah. I love candles. I always, whether it's day or night, I always have candles on the table, and I do like a mix of high ones and low ones. And I opt for that over like regular decorations. And so I always admire these tables that have beautiful florals all over. But I'm like, yeah, there's no place for the stuffing.
Right.
It is limited. So, but little candles all over, I think that really does set a tone and just kind of makes things a little cozier.
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Always a fan of candles.
Yeah, and I've started actually like I know like once the holidays hit, right? I always tell my son like my friend has a Halloween party every year, and when we get in the car to leave her Halloween party, I'm like, we are now on the fast track to Christmas. Like as soon as you close that door to drive home, fast track to Christmas. I mean, you're gonna
Right.
blink and it's gonna be here. But there's so many parties and things. I like to keep a good assortment of disposable plates and napkins and stuff for like when things kind of pop up and you just have people over, and so you're not just stuck.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I found also, and it helps being in the business that I'm in, but I've found like a lot of times I'll have like just appetizers and stuff that I can freeze
Yes.
that like I can just, if people show up, or even frozen cookie dough balls, like that I can just pop in real quick if somebody shows up unexpectedly, so that, you don't have to be like, oh, I have nothing to serve you.
Well, I think it was Ina Garten that I love Ina Garten, the Barefoot Contessa. And
Yeah.
I think she was the one that said when she has a party, she likes to do something homemade and something store-bought.
Oh,
So if you're doing like appetizers, maybe, make a hummus and then serve like a bowl of olives or like store-bought olives or something you could pick up
yeah.
at a deli bar or something like that. Like it all doesn't have to be homemade. Like you
Right.
don't have to
Yeah.
drive yourself bananas.
I think that's a great idea. I love going to our local grocery, has like the little bar with the olives and the
Yeah.
marinated cheeses and all that. I love going and just like putting a little thing together of those types of things because it's such a quick and easy, like fancy
Yeah.
appetizer that people love. And you're like, I didn't really have to do anything but put it
No.
on the platter.
Take stuff out of containers, put it on a platter, call it charcuterie, and we're done.
Exactly.
Now we're fancy.
Exactly. Now we are fancy.
But it's not stressful. And I love that. Like, I love that concept. Like, sometimes I need to be given permission to do stuff like that because especially as like a food blogger and somebody who is around food like we are all the time, like, there's this expectation that everything has to be homemade and everything has to be, at a certain level. But giving yourself permission to take, cheater ways and easier ways of doing things, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of funny that you mentioned that because I was thinking about that for my own blog. I am of the philosophy of it can be semi-homemade and it can be really good. Like
Oh,
if,
yeah.
if you don't have to make a whole big batch of Sunday sauce, if that's not your thing, you can use a jar sauce. There's plenty of really good ones out there
Hmm.
and it's okay.
Yeah.
As an Italian, I'm not going to come after you and I do it too. So it's
We
okay.
all do it.
Of course. And I think sometimes like people set up this facade, especially culturally, like, oh, you have to do it this way because it's the authentic way, And yes, of course, and that is the authentic way, and it's great and it's classic and traditional. But you also, if you're a busy mom or a busy dad, you can use these shortcuts. I do that a lot on my recipes. I'll say, you can use a jarred marinara, or here's my homemade version. Feel
Hmm.
free to make it if you want.
Right.
But don't feel guilty if you don't, and you
Yeah,
don't have
it's
to. It's
perfectly
perfectly
okay.
fine. Yeah,
And there's plenty of ways to doctor up like the
absolutely.
store-bought things to make them feel a little more homemade.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I think that you don't have to go crazy and spend a whole week cooking, to make the perfect meal. You can, just the fact that you have the meal on the table and you're there with family, that's really what's important.
Absolutely. I have a cannoli cake recipe that I just created a few weeks ago. And the funny thing about it is that everybody went absolutely nuts over this cake. And I was laughing to myself because I was like, this is a cake mix. This is a cake mix. It's a white cake mix, or I
Yeah,
can't remember if I used white or yellow now, but I think it's just a cake mix. But then I did the cannoli cream. I made homemade
right.
cannoli cream, and homemade icing. But the cake was just
Yeah.
a cake mix. But I mean, I bet I had 20 texts on my phone about how great this cake was, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you love it. It is delicious.
And there are ways. One of I have two websites, and the other one is it is a keeper, but then the other one is cakemixrecipes.com. And on
Mm,
that, I have a printable that you can grab that tells you how to doctor up those cake mixes to make them taste like they're homemade. So you can
yes.
totally cheat.
Yes, absolutely.
They
Absolutely.
don't taste dull and boring anymore.
Right.
Yeah. So definitely cheat. Cheat any way you can.
Yes, anything that, like I said, my mantra is reduce the stress.
Yes.
You'll be so much of a better mom, parent, host, whatever it
Yeah.
is. You're going to be all those things better if you try to reduce the
Yeah.
stress.
So, like I said, I'm a dork when it comes to planning, and it's just something I like to do. So, my Thanksgiving, and I have this, I usually, we go to my sister's for Christmas. So, that's why I'm not saying Christmas, but I host Thanksgiving. I have my whole week broken down as to every single day what I do. And I do something every day to move myself towards that goal of having dinner on the table on Thursday. So, like, it might be on Sunday, this is, I might go buy the wine. On Monday, I'm making the cranberry sauce. On Tuesday, I'm doing this. So that by the first time I did this and put it into play, it was like Thanksgiving Day. And I'm like sitting like this in my kitchen, half a bottle of wine in, going, what do I do now? Like, I'm just waiting for the turkey to finish.
So funny, but that's so great, right? I think that it can be super intimidating to take on something
Yeah.
like Thanksgiving dinner. And if you can show people a way to do it where it's actually manageable and you can do it in small pieces and
Yeah.
chunks instead of this overwhelming, oh my gosh, I got to make 20 sides and the turkey and mashed
Yeah.
potatoes. I'm so freaking out. And all these people are coming to my house and I got to clean. You know what I mean? Like you're like, I can't take all this. But if you
Yeah.
can do it in manageable chunks, for me, that's the only way I
Yes.
can operate.
It is. It's true. And my other rule I have for Thanksgiving is we can't eat anything that requires leftover that is going to leave leftovers. Like, I have no room in my fridge. That space is at a premium. So if I'm making dinner, you have to eat all of it. There can be
Right.
none left. If we're going out, you can't order anything that you're going to
Yes.
bring home.
Yes.
Whatever you order or you make or whatever gets eaten in that moment.
Right. Yes. One other thing, I have a tip of something you can do on the day of if you run out of fridge space, depending on where you live. is we live in the Midwest, so it's always usually cold here during the holiday months. But just having a cooler that you can just have out on the back porch
Yeah.
where you can, or even a couple coolers, either you can put drinks in them, or you can put like things that you need to have refrigerated that you don't have room in your
Right.
refrigerator. And with it being cold during those seasons, usually it doesn't have a problem with, getting too warm too quickly. But if you live in a warm climate, that might not work
Yeah,
for
yeah,
you.
you might have to come up with a plan B.
Yeah, you might have to do the in the garage maybe or something like that,
Right,
or a
right.
cooler.
Yeah, the fridge space is definitely at a premium.
Mhm.
I have also been known to like remove the produce drawers out of
Oh,
the fridge and using that space for like
yes.
containers of food because it does like, especially when you figure like a turkey takes up a lot of space in a fridge. And I brine mine. So like putting that turkey in its brine in the refrigerator is a lot. Now, the other thing I've learned too, because again, I don't have like that extra refrigerator. I really need to get one, but I don't have one. I have a small like dorm size refrigerator where we keep drinks. But I order a fresh turkey instead of having a frozen one. And then
Hmm.
I just have the butcher keep it until the day before Thanksgiving. So let him store it, right? I'm not
Yeah,
storing that thing. I'm not letting it thaw. It's not that much more than a frozen turkey. And then I just go the day before, pick it up, and I only have to store it for 24 hours.
perfect. That is
Yeah,
perfect. That's
because
a great
that's
tip.
that's huge for me because just as premium as oven space is, refrigerator space is equally as premium.
Yeah, I agree. And if you have party trays and things like that, those things can take up so much space. And if you're trying to fit it all in one fridge, it can be
Yeah,
a nightmare. So you have to be really strategic.
it's tough. And I also found, so this came out of filming a ton of cooking videos,
Mhm.
but this is a tip I just learned. Um, I use like the Rubbermaid container. I call it Tupperware, but I think that's
Yeah.
like Kleenex, right? Everybody calls a tissue a Kleenex, but um, I found that you can write on them with dry erase markers and it comes right off. So as I'm doing my components of my recipes, I'm writing right on the container and putting it in the fridge so I know what's in it and I'm not playing that like what's in the container, open close, trying to
Right. That's a good tip. I
yeah,
love
so I
that
just write
too.
right on it with the dry erase marker. When I'm done, just wipe it off.
Yes. I know. And I always pick up the permanent marker and then I'm like,
Oh
dang
yeah.
it. And then you're like,
Alcohol,
scribble, scribble,
rubbing alcohol will
scribble.
take that off.
Oh, good tip. More
Look at all
tips.
the tips we
It's
have
all the
today.
tips today.
Random tips.
Right.
Well, then, do you have speaking of tips, do you have any last minute tips you'd like to share with our listeners?
Oh gosh, let me think. Anything else I can think of that would make it easier during the holidays? Um, I'm coming up with a loss right now. Just being prepared, I think, is the biggest thing. I know I keep hammering that in, but just being prepared, I think, will help just with the stress level of it all. And just like I said, being able to take it in manageable chunks, days ahead of time and making sure you're making those lists and not, so you don't forget things because the holidays can be such a busy time. And we
Yeah.
like I said, we actually want to be able to enjoy these times with our friends and families and it's not the time for a bunch of stress. So the more that you can de-stress and take that part out of the equation, the better I feel.
Yeah. I'm also going to say too, like, remember that it's just a family dinner with,
Yeah.
you're eating dinner with family and friends. So if something doesn't go right, it's not worth getting upset about it or stressing yourself out. I mean, if anybody's going to forgive you, it's going to be your family and friends. If they have to wait a little bit longer or, the stuffing isn't done when the potatoes are done or, whatever,
Yes,
all
absolutely.
be okay. And next
Yeah,
year you'll be laughing about it and it's perfectly fine.
exactly. And those are the best stories, right? When you
Yeah.
mess up something and you're like, oh, remember the time I did this? And everyone's like, ha, 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 ha. At the time, might not be so funny, but
Yeah.
afterwards, I guarantee you'll laugh.
Exactly. Exactly. So just cut yourself some slack and roll with the punches and have fun doing it. Do you have any favorite recipes that are on your site that you want to share with our listeners that they should check out?
Oh gosh. Let's see. My grandma's Italian meatballs are one of my favorites.
Oh, I'm
So
totally checking that out.
check that out. And then I also have Italian chicken meatballs that are pretty darn delicious. We make
Oh,
them every week, top them with some marinara and some cheese,
ooh,
put them in the oven. Perfect.
yum.
So check those out too. And we have a cannoli cake I mentioned earlier coming up, and I'm not sure. Sorry, I apologize. I'm not sure if it's been published yet. My husband was working on it this week. We're kind of a team.
Yeah.
So That one, when it comes out, you guys are gonna love it for the holidays. It's so yummy. And I literally got text in the middle of the night from people saying they were up at midnight eating the cake in the kitchen out of the dish. So I think everybody should try it.
That is awesome for sure. And well, I'll have you send me all those links and we can include them in the show notes. So if you're listening and you want to check out those recipes, I know I will be over there checking them out. You can just click on them right in the show notes. However you're consuming this podcast episode, we will have it there for you. This has been great. Why don't you remind everybody, Tina, where they can find you online?
Sure, absolutely. I'm at www.spaghettiandconfetti.com. I'm also on Instagram, but it's Spaghetti and Confetti blog, and on Facebook and TikTok, it's just Spaghetti and Confetti. So you can find me in all those places.
That is awesome. And again, we'll put those links in the show notes. So very easy to find her and connect with Tina and check out all of her great recipes. Well, thank you so much for tuning into today's episode of Behind the Recipe. I hope you enjoyed our conversation and picked up a few tips and definitely some recipes to try in your kitchen. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And of course, make sure you share this with someone who loves food. Until next time, happy cooking. And remember, everything's better when shared in the kitchen.